I'm Chelsea Kirk. I worked as a volunteer organizer with the Bernie Sanders campaign for Congressional District 28. And on June 7th of the primary, I was working in the office, taking voter inquiries by phone, and then redirecting people to our voter hotline. By doing this, I came across many devastating and disheartening stories. An overwhelming amount of people had to vote provisionally. Many people who were not registered as permanent vote by mail showed up to their polling places and were told to go home and get their ballots from home and then bring them back or mail them in. But the most infuriating story happened in the Woodland Hills area at 4900 Serenia Avenue at the Pacific Lodge Youth Services polling station, where no party preference voters were being denied the right to cast a ballot in any other party. They weren't even allowed to vote provisionally. They were told that they were only allowed to vote on their nonpartisan ballot. So many voters, this happened at 2 p.m., a call I received by a woman, and she was being denied the right to get a crossover Democratic ballot or even to vote provisionally, and she was forced to vote on her nonpartisan ballot. And this happened to her daughter in another area in the Woodland Hills area at a different polling station. Many people were denied the right to cast a vote for a presidential candidate. It's really disconcerting to think that I'm over here saying you're fortunate if you got to vote provisionally, because some people didn't get to cast a vote for a presidential candidate. Thank you.
Eric Revin.
Yes, it's Eric Revin from the 3rd District. My 18-year-old son had registered to vote, showed up, they didn't have him. He was asked to vote provisionally. He did. One serious concern was that the day after Election Day, we got a letter from the registrar recorder saying, don't forget to vote. So that was a bit problematic. That has to go out a little earlier, I think. And I would just want to emphasize, this is a very, very serious problem, as you all know. The Constitution, Article 1 and 2, provides for this, and the Amendment 17. This is not messing around. We have to do something. The Board of Supervisors is very familiar with this territory. You need to take some strong action. The registrar recorder is a decent guy, but we have elections, and then we have election voter outreach. Those should be separated. This man has been struggling with an insufficient budget, and this Board of Supervisors knows it. They know it just like they know we've been struggling with the deficit in handling our mentally ill and others. This is a county problem. This needs to be solved by the Board of Supervisors, not in a light and gentle, oh, well, sorry you lost. This needs to be fixed.
Raise the roof, please. Next speaker.
Yes, my name is Miles Tackett, and I'm a voter from District 34. And on June 7th, I had already cast my ballot by mail, so I decided, and I felt it was necessary to be a volunteer poll watcher. I went to a few different locations, and I witnessed multiple instances. And well, I'll just start. Within the first 5 minutes, I walked in and I saw a gentleman who was not on the voter roll list, had his voter registration receipt card. It was dated on May 18th that he'd been registered. We checked online, confirmed that he was registered, confirmed that he was at the correct polling places. He definitely was not on the voter roll. So that just right there made no sense at all, and was like, okay, that's a big red flag, and then just proceeded to get worse and worse with provisional ballots just being handed out without any effort being made. In many instances, I watched poll workers not ask them to double check they were at the correct polling place or even at the right precinct table at that polling place. And we would try, myself and 2 other people would try to help. And when we did, we got a lot of pushback from the poll workers at certain tables. And then a volunteer representative from the recorder's office was there named Paquita Mansouri, and she was extremely hostile.
Next speaker.
Hi, my name is Desert Regan. I had little trouble on voting day, but what's more concerning to me is the appearance of your lack of, or just a disinterest on everybody here's part on this board. Eating sandwiches, being on the phone, laughing, not paying attention. I'm not trying to be a thorn in anybody's side. Maybe I'm just unfamiliar with your process, but when you have people who have given up work for the day and who are talking about voter suppression of all things, I would expect a little respect to those people who were up here. That's all. Ms. Solis, you've been paying attention. I've been watching everybody up here, but many of you have not been, and you just need to at least have the perception of respect for these people and for democracy. That's it. Just the perception, that's all we're asking. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Good
I also
afternoon.
wanted to call up Lonnie Brock, I'm sorry. You here? No? Okay, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, Arnold Sachs. And I could almost piggyback on what the gentleman said. People coming here to talk about this problem with the voting. Wait till the county board wheels start turning. You'll start to hear plans about their housing plan and their economic development plan and affordable housing and the community redevelopment and all the things that the Board of Supervisors oversees. How well you doing out there in the public domain? Actually, polling place that I worked at, perfect. Started with 700 ballots, counted them all up, 700 at the end. In and out. But there were some problems. I wish you would have addressed the independent register voting, and you should have done that 6 months ago. And I like what Dean, the register recorder, said about the California state policy changing for registration for 2 weeks. And yet the registrar's office had to mail out the provisional list 25 days in advance. What steps did you take to address that change in the California state policy? Zero. That's the problem.
Remember, this item is before us? Right.
Madam Chair, there's a motion to approve this item.
Motion moved by Mr. Ridley Thomas. Approving the Carson election. That would be. Change the date for the elections, but it's for Carson.
Change the date request. They held the
We
item.
allow.
That's
we
fine, but
allow-
let me just simply say for the record,
We allow-
the testimony was not particularly germane to the specific item before us, although it was certainly appropriate for people to express their opinions. And to the speaker before last, who was under the mistaken impression that we weren't paying attention, let me just simply say it couldn't be further inaccurate in that regard. And there are people on both sides of this table who are our staff, who pay attention, who know what you've said, and those other speakers. And if you want to test that, we'll be glad to satisfy your curiosity in that connection. So I get your sense of it's made by implications of incompetence and or disenfranchisement, etc. Just appreciate that some of us cut our eye teeth on civil rights and the issue of voter suppression, and we have not abandoned that cause. We are here in part for that express purpose. We trust that you understand and appreciate that. Move the item, Madam Chair.
Okay, without objection, such would be the order. Thank you. We appreciate the public coming out. And while we did realize there were going to be many people coming to speak before us, we did what we could legally to allow for this discussion to take place. The vote was taken on an item regarding a particular election in the city of Carson. So there is democracy at work. We know that we can do better, and we appreciate your information and your concerns, and we'll take those to heed because we know we have a long way to go between now and then.
And
Thank
it's
you.
all a part of the public record and documented.
Thank you.